Monster Hunter World is a fascinating game, with its variety in weapons and monsters to over hundreds upon hundreds of hours of playtime. But even with Monster Hunter World, at some point it gets boring. So I've decided to randomize the entirety of the game. And when I say everything is randomized, I mean everything is randomized. The quests are randomized. Every monster you encounter is a random one. The map you are sent to is random. The elements of the monster's attack are also random, but that's not everything. Your gear is randomized as well. The resources you need to craft them are random. The trees, the weapon trees, are random as well, and the stats that weapons have are too. So, random damage, random elemental type, random affinity, and random sharpness. Pretty much the same thing applies to charms as well as armor. Random ways to craft them, as well as random abilities on the armor pieces. Not only that, but the set ability is also randomized. And with that, let the adventure begin. First up, I created a new character and just changed his hairstyle because he just basically looks like me. Of course, called him IGNIS, created my Palico and called him Red, and started up the game. For those who never played Monster Hunter World, the tutorial is very long and very excruciating. It's boring and you can't skip cutscenes. However, we eventually make it through to the ancient forest. We quickly move through, but there's a small problem. At a certain point of the tutorial, you have to hide from a group of Jagras. Well, I did, and nothing happened. I feared that I was already soft-locked, so I had to restart the game. Went there again, and again the Jagras wouldn't leave. So I closed the game yet again and rebooted the randomizer, and then it worked and I could finally finish the tutorial. The first mission is nothing special. You just pick up a weapon and go fight the Jagras that harassed you in the previous one. And after that first mission, we were actually able to do our first weapon upgrade. We found a 180 ice, 528 damage Jagras Greatsword. The sharpness was only slightly green, which isn't that overwhelming, but the damage is really good. Another thing we were able to craft was a new helmet, which would increase the sharpness of the weapon as it had handicraft as ability on it. So we went and started up the second mission, where we finally would encounter our first randomized monster. So we rush through the beginning of the mission, and we see a great Jagras. Well, that's the monster you will encounter here anyway, so yeah, maybe it's not randomized. Just go around the corner here, and okay, yes, it has been randomized into one of the strongest monsters in the base game, the Diablos. Which I've got to admit wasn't that big of a deal, since we had our new weapon, which was really strong at that point. Also, the Diablos doesn't seem to have any major threats when it comes to elements, so we are pretty much fine here. Nonetheless, just his moveset makes up for a somewhat hard fight. But after not really too long, the Diablos goes down. Our next target is a Kulu-Yaku, which inhabits a camp we want to set up. And I've tried the randomizer before. This point never seems to be randomized, so I think the Kulu-Yaku here is kind of set and can't be changed. Nothing much to say about the fight. One of the easiest monsters in the game, one of the weakest ones as well. It goes down really fast and really easily due to our extremely strong weapon. But the easy life would change soon enough, as there are some really broken mechanics in this randomizer which would make some fights really hard. For example, there is a chance that the Elder Dragons are randomized into just normal missions. So of course, in our third mission, we encounter a Kirin, a lightning bolt throwing unicorn, which is known for its speed, but also its toughness. Well, the fight went something like that. Yeah, it was really easy. The speed and the toughness of the Kirin didn't come into play at all. My theory on that is that in low rank there isn't a quest for this monster, so I guess it has been scaled down so much that it's just really weak when encountered in low rank. Also, our very overpowered weapon at this point plays a very huge role. However, the next mission would be basically a cargo transport mission, where we had to protect a carriage with researchers. And there again is a hard-coded monster which wouldn't change through the randomizer, the Rathian. And this is the first point in this playthrough where it gets really hard. See, the Rathian has a hitbox when it's moving. Any movement, be it an attack or just turning around, has a small gust of wind, which is a hitbox. Of course, this hitbox was randomized with a certain element type. And unfortunately, it was fire damage, which means every time the Rathian would move and we'd be somewhat close to him, we'd get a small chunk of damage. Not much, but it added up really fast, and if you'd get hit from a normal attack of this monster, you'd go down really fast. Luckily, we don't have to kill it here. After a couple of minutes, we can just move on and follow the researchers to get to the real objective of the quest. When arriving there, we are faced with another monster. And there's something really funny happening here. The animations when the monsters are first introduced are made with the models that you encounter in-game. So if there's another monster, the model will be switched with that monster. This doesn't work at all. In this first example, you'll see that both the original monster and the monster we face now are kind of merged into one another. And in the end, you'll see it's only the Gyarotodus, and it's kind of stretched and hovering above the ground. This is what will happen most times when the monsters just will get kind of distorted, and if they have wings where there shouldn't be, the wings will T-pose, stuff like that. Sometimes if the models are too different, the monsters will just be invisible in the cutscenes, which will soon lead to a very funny moment. However, people who did play Monster Hunter World know that this monster is a cakewalk. Even with a weapon that is not that strong, this monster is just really easy to kill. It doesn't have that much HP, it's slow, it falls over really fast. One of the easiest encounters in the game. But I have to say, it lasted longer than I expected. It even drained my entire green sharpness, which I thought was very interesting. As I said, lasted much longer than I'd expected it. However, it would go down fairly quickly, and we'll get into the next mission, where we meet our first invisible force terrorizing a cutscene. And interestingly enough, it was another Diabolos who straight up charged at me as soon as the cutscene ended. I didn't have time to react at all, and I didn't see which monster it was, so I just got battered in the head for absolutely out of left field. However, as before, this fight was pretty easy with the weapon we had. The Diabolos yet again went down fairly easily, and we'd move on to the next mission. And this is where I found a little trick. You can actually see which monster you'll face from the randomizer when there is a portrait of the monster when accepting the quest. The name and the title of the quest will be wrong, but as I said, the portrait will be the monster that you'll face. So in this quest, where you'll normally fight the Tobi Kadachi, it was a Radoban. And if you know the game, you know the introduction cutscene of the Tobi is that he jumps between some trees. And I really wanted to see the Radoban jump between trees because this monster is huge and very clunky. Sadly, of course, the monster was just invisible as their models are so different. However, Radoban, one of the easiest monsters in the game as well. It can flick itself over so easily when you just shoot it with 2 of your slingshot bullets while it's rolling around, which gives you easy access to 3 damage windows. So even if I had the weakest weapon in the game, this fight would be an absolute cakewalk. Also, it's fairly easily to notice that the Radoban isn't made for this terrain, as it can't really land its rolling attacks because the area we are in is so narrow. So again, a very easy fight. Another really easy hunt should follow in the form of the Baroth. Very easy fight, he's not durable, he doesn't deal damage, he's slow. The only thing annoying was this big Gyros. Sometimes he would knock me out of my combos, which is not a big deal, but it's still very annoying. In the end, the Baroth went down very easily. The next fight can barely be called one. We had some really easy encounters, but never a boring one. But this, every time I have to do it, I just sigh. It's the most boring mission out there. The first encounter with the Zora Magdaros. You just sit there and wait, basically. You load some cannons, shoot some arrows, whatever. It doesn't do much, you basically don't do anything. And it's even worse than the normal Zora Magdaros fight, as you don't really get any loot from this mission. So let's just say I passed the mission, but I really didn't want to. Doing so had one upside though. I was able to gather the materials to acquire a new weapon upgrade. We were now equipped with a 120 water 672 greatsword, which is a big improvement over our about 500 damage greatsword from before. After the so-called fight against the Zora, you will firstly go to the Coral Highlands. There you'll have to defeat a Tsitsi Yaku, which is just another version basically of the Kulu Yaku. Though it's not a bird, it's a lizard, and it can blind you with his, like, head pieces, I don't know how to call them. But he, as well as his distant cousin, is just a very easy fight. The reason why I mentioned this specifically is because I've slain another monster here. When you enter this level, or mission rather, you find a Legiana. This monster will always be here. It's another one of these cases where it will be the same monster even though you have a randomizer. This is because this Legiana will interfere with you before the next mission. It will kind of annoy you and stuff like that. I wanted to see if you slay it here, if it will appear in the next cutscene. And it didn't, because the next cutscene was the wrong one. It was the next mission after the next mission. And the answer is yes, it did appear. But, you know, free materials, I take it. When it comes to the next 3 assignments, I won't go into much detail. The first 2 were just 2 more Radobans. So almost back to back, 3 of the same monster. That in this animation, the Poalum was switched up with the model of the Radoban. So we had a Radoban beautifully flying through the air. And I loved it. It looked really funny. Anyways, I don't know if I should call myself lucky or not, but this was just a cakewalk again. Also, did you notice this reference when playing Monster Hunter World?
Huh? It's you two.
Have we met?
Sorry, I forgot. You were out cold when I found you.
One Piece.
Can we get much higher?
However, the third one was a Kulu Yaku. Also had it before. As I said, absolutely easy. But then, when I thought this mod was just way too easy, I encountered such a strong enemy in the form of a Rathalos. This menacing red dragon in itself is in the base game pretty much respectable. It's a strong opponent and a noteworthy fight. He's able to apply poison, he's fast, he can fly, he is able to apply fire damage as well. But here, in this randomizer, there was a problem. This monster, just like its female counterpart, had the ability to basically have an aura of damage around him. But here it was even worse. He didn't even have to move for me to get the damage dealt from this ability. Also, the damage was much more than before. Not only that, but it applied the status effect of the Dragon Pest, which negates all elemental damage dealt by the player. So my damage output was lowered, and anytime I'd get near the monster, my life would just be drained like that. Luckily, and by sheer coincidence, I equipped the health booster before starting up this mission. So as long as I would stay inside the health booster while fighting, the damage would kind of be balanced out. Though if I was to receive a hit from the monster, I'd still be in huge danger. Lucky for me, in the beginning, I was able to cut off the Rathalos' tail, so it wouldn't be able to apply poison with that at least. After some very close near-death experiences and a lot of health boosts, I finally managed to defeat this absolutely menacing monster.
You okay, partner? I'm waiting for you back at camp.
Not quite as menacing, but pretty much even harder was the next fight I picked. It was an optional quest against the lizard and 2 floofballs. Well, the assignment was to only kill the Tsitsi, but as I said, 2 floofballs in the form of Poalum were added into the arena. So I had to face 3 monsters at the same time. And of course, all 3 of them are kind of weak in itself, but there was a big problem. The same effect as the Rathalos had was applied to the Poalum, and there were 2 of them. So while dealing with my objective, the Tsitsi, I would be harassed by 2 Poalum who just had to be near me to basically take me out. And so they did. The first 2 feints in this run came from this mission. And funny enough, it was optional, just so I can pump up my sword a bit more. In the end, this mission was just a question of endurance. I gave it everything I got, almost ran out of mega potions, but in the end managed to finish off the Tsitsi and leave the mission with the materials needed for my new weapon. This new weapon packed a punch. 912 damage. No element, but it didn't matter. 912 damage was just way too much to pass on. It even had blue sharpness. Nice improvement over our formerly green one. I was very excited to put that new weapon to a test, so I hopped on into the next mission where we'd had to hunt a Rathalos, which was switched with the Great Jagras. And again, we had a beautiful cutscene where the Great Jagras would hover through the air like a fairy. Anyways, I show you the entire fight against that monster here because I think it's less than a minute. This new weapon is a monster. In the end, it was pretty funny because defeating the Great Jagras didn't even complete the assignment, so I just left and started up the new quest, which was a quest to hunt a Great Gyros. So I went and looked for it. Turns out it was under the map and I couldn't reach it. But I found a Tobi Kadachi and slapped it around a bit. Very fast fight as well. As I said, new weapon is just ridiculously strong right now. I then restarted the mission and found the Great Gyros, and also about him, not much to say. Very fast fight with that new weapon that is even more broken. I think you can imagine it. The next monster was again just a Gyratodes. No special abilities, not strong, not durable, not fast. Easy fight, it was over really quickly. But now, it was time for the boss battle that would conclude the first stage of Monster Hunter World. The real fight against the Zora Magdaros. It's pretty much the same as the first encounter. Though, of course, you get the materials, which kind of motivates me a bit more. And you can kind of fight the Nergigante for real this time. Not long, but for real. And this fight made it so much more interesting. Because, and I kid you not, the Nergigante had the same effect as the Poalum and the Rathalos had. So it had this damage aura that would apply Dragon status effect. I mean, okay, we don't have an element on our weapon anymore, but still, the damage was insane. And, of course, the Nergigante is just way stronger than all the monsters we've encountered so far. So to say he beat my butt is an absolute understatement. I didn't faint, because he decided to retreat really fast, but I sure as hell wouldn't be able to defeat him right now. Anyways, after he left, the fight was basically just like before. Load some cannons, shoot some bolts, and eventually defeat the Zora Magdaros. The only thing I can say about it in the end is that this fight didn't pass quickly. But still, I think it was faster than the first encounter. Oh yeah, and I fainted against the Zora. Yeah. That's kind of embarrassing, but, you know, whatever. And this is it for the first part of the Monster Hunter World randomizer. If you want to see the second half of the base game and also the Iceborne DLC, definitely subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video so I know you are interested in that. Also, you can go join the Discord, the link will be in the description. Every new video I do will be posted there, and also I hang out there sometimes, so just go and join. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.